Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Cynthia Harrison from the Academy of Conscious Evolution, Rhombus Healing Arts, and the House of Unconditional Love. So today we're talking about developing the witness consciousness or the observer mind. And it's just a short teaching. We're going to go through a little meditation, but as an example, waking up, some of you are seers, some of you are intuitives. And when I wake up in the mornings, and actually when I'm going to sleep as well, often I see a lot. I get a lot of information coming in because they're those in-between spaces. And those of you who have studied with me in intuitive studies, or particularly in trance, you'll understand the general state of consciousness as like the circle between the two triangles, right? Heaven and earth. And as we get to the outer parts of the triangle, of the circle, there's a space, a liminal space, a space between the space. And this is where we can get a lot of information. And so I was actually talking about this morning because I woke up and I have my morning practices, and there were a lot of people coming in. And, years ago, back in the day, I would almost use the imagery of those people coming in as a meditation. And it is a beautiful way to process as well, right? So I see all these images and I can just be there and watch them, observe them. I don't need to know why they've come in. I don't need to know who they are. I don't need to do anything about it, right? I can choose. I can choose and say, all right, show me who you are. What is it that you're showing for blah, 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 right? Are they passed over loved ones? Are they somebody else that's needing help? Are they, right there? It's information in the field. So we can be distracted into all the fears around that, or we can just observe. And this morning, I had many beings come in, humans, human looking, whether they're passed over or not. I didn't ask, didn't care. Not the time. If it's important, they'll come back. So I notice it. I go, okay. And the next ones come, or the next thing comes, the next vision comes, or the next, And it's just like I'm watching the sky. So through the week, we've been going through these meditations, these short teachings. And I mentioned that thoughts are like, clouds in the sky, and there are all different types of clouds. So those of you who've done Cloud Odyssey, you understand all the different cloud formations and atmospheres, right? So this is our life. And we can get caught up in a cloud formation, right? A thought, an image, or we can notice it and let it go. It's like, oh, there it is. Oh, beautiful cloud. I see you. Off it goes. So those beings that came through this morning, I noticed them. I acknowledged them. Yep. There you are. Okay. Off they go. I notice, I witness, I observe how others may come in and want to be seen fully. Right? So often I just get the faces, like from the shoulders up. Every now and then, when I'm like, yep, next. Okay, yep, I see you, I witness you, I'm observing you. A full-bodied being will show, you're stepping forward even further. Okay. Do I want to interact at this point in time? No. Acknowledge them. We have the choice. I was in a practice. Those practices raise my frequency. They give me access to more information in the field. I acknowledge it and I keep going because it's not where that practice, it's not the aim. So I was missing the mark if I got caught up in that information. Do you see? I'm on my way there, which opens the doors, opens the gates, opens the flood of information, or tunes me in at different frequencies so that I can experience different experiences. And when it first starts to happen, we get, my internet's frozen. We get caught up and we want to know about it, and we get caught on one or two faces. And I'm saying that it's constant. So just notice it, observe it. And there are practices as we go along. We'll see how we go. But the practice that I was doing was divine intuition, not as an intermediary. But on your way to swimming in the ocean, it opens you up for all information. And so when it starts to flood in, and it can, we just notice it. We notice our body, our physical body, our energy bodies, whether we're getting caught up on it. So developing witness consciousness. Before I go any further, I just want to let you know, for those of you that are here, I guess you won't hear me speaking if you're not here. Tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday for those in Australia or other parts of the world, but Saturday the 3rd of May. Can you believe we're already in the 3rd? Well, we're in the 2nd, but the 3rd tomorrow. We have Ascend, Awakening Spiritual Consciousness, Embodied Neural Development. And that's what Ascend stands for this program. And it's free tomorrow, 2 hours. So scroll down. If you're watching on Instagram, go to the profile and look for Ascend. Click on it, sign up. You'll get the Zoom link. Come and hang out for 2 hours and I'll take you through processes that layer, and we can have a discussion about what your experiences are, questions, and basically you get a little bit more than what we do here, and a sample of what the greater programs are, which are over 10 months. However, over 2 hours, an hour and a half, adding in questions and your experiences and our dialogue, because workshops for me are more about interaction with you. Like, how are you experiencing the process, right? So go to the link Ascend, click on it, sign, put your email in there, and you'll get the Zoom link for tomorrow. We'll go through it. Yay. Yay. Okay. What else? Sunday, we have a service and we're starting to look at the mother. So May for the House of Unconditional Love is about the mother. And the painting behind me is an aspect of that that we did on, what day did we do that? Wednesday, with the breath teaching, breath as a bridge teaching. So pop in on Sunday and go to unconditionallove.us and see the times and whatnot, and hang out with us live and get a couple of teachings there around Kiyosei teaching about, or sharing about his experience with the feminine, the divine feminine, and the mother. And then I'll be on after him to share about the mother in the more mystical, metaphysical way. So now we're going into the observer mind, and we're going to do, probably, a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes all up. We're going to sit and get a little example of what I'm talking about. So developing the witness consciousness or the observer mind, the ability to observe our thoughts, our feelings without identification, without going into it. It creates a space for intuitive insights to emerge. It helps you if you want to go further into the different levels of intuition, how we get information, how we get knowledge, knowing. Okay. From general human baseline intuition to the intermediary intuition, which is where we get all this sort of psychic medium sort of channeling information, to divine intuition, which is that mystic direct connection to all there is, right? So they're the three levels that I teach and work with, and we're just touching into it, okay? So by observing rather than following and getting caught up in the information, just observing, we're sitting back and we're watching it. And this is something that those of you who've done more the intermediary sort of trance mediumship and feeling and experiencing different parts of the self and the information those parts have. Sometimes we call them guides, sometimes we call them passed over masters, sometimes we call them different aspects of spirit. It's all consciousness, and it's all aspects of your consciousness, or can be, right? So we're giving this or providing the opportunity for intuitive insights to emerge. So the observer perspective allows us to distinguish between that mental chatter and deeper knowing. So let me just check the chat here. I think there might be. Aloha, Lisa. I thought there might have been a comment. So this chatter or deeper knowing. Knowing is when, I talk about knowing a lot, but let me tell you what it means. Knowing is when you have a direct experience of it. You're no longer believing because someone else has said it, or, you've seen somebody else go through an experience. It's when you have that direct experience, that direct knowing. It's no longer a belief. It's no longer philosophy, right? We're just going a little biblical for a minute because I'm surrounded by pictures from Holy Week. The reason why, one of the reasons why Jesus was disliked is because majority of, so I'm not going to label people, the majority of those in power were philosophers, right? Nothing wrong with philosophy. I am a philosopher, but I moved past that to direct knowing, right? So what I teach from is my direct experience. It's no longer philosophy when you're directly experiencing it. You're no longer hypothesizing. So when we write, research papers, we write a question, a hypothesis. And I always say that if you have the answer to the hypothesis, why do the research? You don't need to. You have, right? You're questioning, you're wondering, you have a belief, but it's not, it's not coming from you necessarily, who you really are. It's coming from what you've been encoded by and through your culture, your country, your parents, your ancestors, right? And beliefs, often we don't even know why we believe what we believe, because it's just, it's like that saying about the fish, right? And one fish jumps out of the water and sees that there's more, and the other fish is oblivious to it because it's in the belief. But when the fish jumps out of the water and gets a glimpse of the other side, right, it now has a knowing and experience, and it comes back in and tries to tell the fish that's in the water, who's never been out of the water and doesn't know that there's anything else other than that water that it's in, right? So the observer perspective allows us to move between mental chatter and deeper knowing. It's a practice of neutral observation, helps us regulate the nervous system, and it creates distance from reactive patterns. So it's a space between the ignition and the reaction. So it gives us space to have a response, make a choice, right? So mindfulness, the observer mind, developing the witness consciousness gives us the opportunity to respond rather than react, to look at, what's this knowing? What's this knowledge? So the practice, let's get into the practice. You ready? The practice is simply to sit comfortably and imagine yourself sitting on a riverbank. Let's do this one. You're sitting on a riverbank. And straight away I got an image of the river at the back of the place where I lived in Perth, Australia. I lived on the riverbank, basically. And the clay, right? It's funny the things you miss, the smell of soil, right? When you live on a rock, there's not a lot of soil here, right? What we miss, because we're conditioned, right? The smell of soil, green grass, to sit on green grass. That's why I'm loving growing this grass out here. I haven't had green grass to just sit on for nearly 3 years because it's all rock. Now I have a little patch and we're growing it. So it's a nice little meditation area, right? So sitting on whatever riverbank or whatever space that feels like the side of a river, And you're just watching the leaves float on that water, down the stream, down the river, down the creek, whatever it might be, right? You're watching, you're observing. And you're just going to do that. Now let's say 5 minutes. I was going to say 10 minutes, but you would do this for yourself. 10-minute practice. So you're sitting, getting yourself comfortable where you can sit without distraction for 5 minutes and just watching the leaves float down the river or the stream or the creek. So do that, take a breath. Just start emerging. You're sitting. And if you are at the river, I mean, you could go to the river or a waterway or your pond and do the same thing. And as you're sitting there, you're just going to place each thought that comes up into or onto a leaf. That's strange. So placing that thought onto the leaf. Placing any emotion that comes up on to the leaf. Placing any sensations that arise. Notice it. Interesting. Observe it. Place it on to a leaf or a feather or something floating on the top of the water. It might be flecks of dust, right? Or pollen. Whatever it is that works for you. Each one, each piece, each leaf, each has a thought, an emotion, or a sensation that arises as you're sitting and you're watching it float away. Just allow it. As you listen to the birds while you're sitting at the side, and practicing maintaining the perspective of the observer rather than being swept into the stream. You're not on the leaf. You're not in the water. You're on the side of the river, observing and witnessing the movement, the flow of your thought, of your emotion, or of a sensation that arises. Noticing, witnessing, observing from the riverbank. Allow the stream, as if it's a stream of consciousness, to move. Allow it to flow. And that's the practice. So I'm going to go into some reflection prompts that you can consider, so you can continue to sit there and just listen and reflect on what types of thoughts that may have came up, what thoughts were most difficult to observe without attachment. Was there a particular thought that kept coming up, coming in, and you were continually putting it on the leaf? Or did it feel like you put it on the leaf and you followed it down the river? So just a reflection on what thought may have been more difficult to observe without attachment. Did you notice any recurring patterns in your thinking? And a question that you can contemplate for yourself is, how might developing witness consciousness enhance your intuitive abilities? How might practicing, observing without attachment support your intuitive abilities? So just jot down in your journal, or however you take notes, to add to your reflection of yourself. And as you do this practice, it's only 5-10 minutes just observing. You can do it with anything. Noticing when something comes in, how it shifts and changes. A thought to an emotion, or is it a sensation first? Is there a sensation? Notice the sensation. Ah, there it is. Okay. It's not getting caught, held. So the integration of this practice is around a challenging moment today. You may have something that's more challenging than usual. It may be a thought, it may be a person, right? It may be something you need to do. I need to finish editing my thesis. You know, but there are other things I would prefer to do. Right? So, like Lisa, I am going to send you some information on something that we talked about that I haven't done yet. And so that's written on the fridge to do that, and some other client work that's or support that people have connected with. So noticing through your day, and practice stepping into the observer mode, just watching, just witnessing, not judging it, not trying to nut it out, just allowing it. Give it the opportunity to create space for something even more magnificent to emerge. And then notice how this shifts in perspective, how it shifts or affects your response. Because remember, mindfulness is the space between the ignition, the happening, and the response, the reaction. So we want to get to, bam, a trigger, space, respond. Not, and then, oh, I wish I didn't say that or do that. Because once our tongue stabs someone, the wound may heal, but the scar remains. Okay. We can turn our scars into being one of the many stars that make up this sack of stardust that we call the human experience. So that's the observer mind practice for today. And tomorrow we have the Ascend mini workshop. So see if you can come. The link is, if you're on social media platforms, the link is in where you're watching this. If you're on Instagram, you can go to the profile and look in the link tree. You'll see Ascend Mini. And it's around a 2 hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. We'll go through 3 specific practices that build on each other to give you an idea of the systematic process of the Ascend methodology, which again is awaken spiritual consciousness and embodied neural development. So we're looking at the spiritual aspects of the human and the physiology, the nervous system, and the science. We're bringing them together, building the structures that support however far you want to go in your human conscious development and evolution, right? I'm about conscious evolution of the human as a species. So we're not just looking at one aspect. So I would love to see you tomorrow. And we won't have a little teaching tomorrow because we'll have our bigger teaching. So for those of you that are watching, how did you go? Any questions before we round up? Lisa, you didn't send me your painting that you painted on Wednesday, so I'm still waiting to see it. Anyone else that painted with me or drew? I'd love to see. It's not about being pretty and beautiful and, you know, whatever. It's about the expression, right? We're expressing. We're creating space again. And through that space, we're bringing the invisible to a more dense format. So I call my paintings power generators when I paint in that fashion, because they have layer upon layer of embedded consciousness, energy, right? And those that can see and feel, sense energy, when you see the difference between, you know, a work that I may have done for like a job in the past, or one that I've done in devotion, consciously, fully conscious. It's very different energy. So they inform. They inform. All right, so we will wrap up if there are no other questions. And I hope you're enjoying your birthday week, Lisa. And I will get back to you with that information around this next cycle. So each cycle, each time we have a birthday, the energy that we're in and what the priorities that we're working on in this round can be helpful, right? What energies are more pronounced, or like what are we building on in this cycle? So it's again this systematic, like every birthday, and how those cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles, they all move and work together. So I will get you that piece of information, and we'll go from there. All right. If that is all, then we are done. We are complete. And may the blessings be. Much love. So you can